Hello YouTube family friends, Rev It Up Mustang Fanatic Productions, Mechanic Edition. We had fun and it was challenging working on my uncle's 98 Chevy 1500 half-ton with the 4.3 liter V6 engine, solving the brakes sticking while driving. And you press the brakes to the floor, they stick, and you would have to put the car in park and shut it off, and then the pedal would free up and you hear it pop up and free, and then you can drive. But every time you hit the brakes, like you have to really stop, it would actually do that. So we end up changing the master cylinder out. We bench bled the master cylinder, and then we also end up re-bleeding all 4 brakes, and we had good brake pressure. And also I changed the vacuum booster hose, which had a hole in it, and also it now runs and drives and stops, and it does not, brakes does not stick. It wasn't 100% to my satisfaction. It was still a little spongy, but a lot better than what it was before. And so maybe at another time we may look into the check valve on the brake booster, or we may just end up changing out the brake booster, and or we can bleed the ABS system and take it from there. But for now, it's good. So today I got his wife's, my aunt, 08 Hyundai Sonata. We did the radiator on this. Rear brakes are grinding, making noise. So we're gonna turn this around. We're gonna jack it up, and we're gonna do a dual function here. We're gonna check the rear and the front brakes to make sure she got front brake pads. We don't want her coming back next week saying, oh, the front is grinding. We want to keep those rotors in good shape. From the outside, the rotors look good, but the inside, you can't tell until you get under there, take the tire off and look at it. So we're gonna back her up, and we're gonna take a look at it. Or we can do it this way. We don't have to back her up because we're going to check the front and the rear. Alrighty, so let me put my chocks, wheel chocks under there, get my jack under there, and get jack stands up on there, and we'll check her out. So in order to inspect brake pads, what do you have to do? Get the wheel off, and you can look in between here, and there's a lot of brake there, and here's the inspection hole right there, and you can see that inner brake, there's a whole lot of brake there, and the other brake inside here, there's a whole lot of brake there. So the front brakes are fine. So we're gonna go ahead and jack this, put the tire back on, jack it back down, spin the car around, and get the car up in the middle and get both tires off and see what's going on back there. Okay, we got the front wheels supported with our chocks, and you know me, I use my lug nut cracker to crack the lug nuts to save it on my impact. And so now we'll go up under the car, find a place in the middle to jack the car up so we can get the car up in the air on both sides. By doing it that way, this saves battery power on my impact, loosens up real easy. And put our bolts over there. Tire comes off. Outside, not too bad. Little small grooves, but nothing major. We're gonna have to see in here. Yeah, these pads are worn. Definitely. Let's see. That's a small little sight glass, but I can tell from the outside this one is worn, so the inner one's going to be worn as well. So let me get this off. We're going to take this is a 14 millimeter here, and we're going to pull this caliper up, put it over here real light, so I don't need no hanger. Plenty of brake holes to hold it up there. So we're gonna do that. Okay, so we got the bolts loose. We can take it loose by hand, but first let me get my pair of pliers here. I mean screwdriver, and we're gonna see if this we're gonna check and make sure this caliper is not frozen, and it'll be easier for us to take off. And you can see that there is movement, so the sliding pins are working. So now let's go ahead and take the bolts out. One on the bottom here, these are 14 millimeters. Take the one out on the top right there. And we'll put them down there where our lug nuts, and we'll pull it off. You can see the piston looks good, and we'll set it up top. Now, yeah, there's the rear brakes. They're real low, and what we were hearing, if you can see that wear ring right there, that is past the brakes. So that was scraping in the back. So I bet this rotor is not in bad shape at all on this side, and I can feel it. Yeah, this rotor is pretty good on the inside. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the other side, pull that off. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to check the rotor. I'm just going to put one bolt back in here to hold this up, because once I take the other tire off, I'm going to leave the vehicle like this, and I don't want to put any undue stress on the brake caliper here. So I don't want it to fall off while I'm gone, and potentially damage that hose right there. So put a couple of bolts in on that. Now we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to do the same check. We know we're going to do both brakes, but I got to check the caliper on the other side. I mean the brake rotor on the other side. So I can tell through here, this is not as bad as the other side. If you look through the wear ring, the brake line check, you can see this has pretty decent pads on this side. So it's that side over there on the passenger side that was bad. But when you do brakes, you change them both. You don't change one. So as I told you, I can see through the inspection holes. Here's the brake pad right there. That's the inner, and here's the outer, and you can see plenty of brakes on that. But I would recommend changing it. You do both. You don't do one. You just can't do one. You got to do both brakes. So now that I know what it is, I'll go ahead and call the auto parts store and see if they have brakes for this. Okay, so we have the new brake pads here, and again, to distinguish them, you can always look on the back, and you'll see right there, you can see where the back of the piston hit this one right here. Okay, so what that means in tail is this spring, or this wear ring indicator, okay, is going to go on the inside when the brakes go back together. Okay, so it would be on the inside, and then the one without the wear indicator goes on the outside. Okay, just like so. And when putting these in, you can't put them in straight. You got to go in on an angle like this and then twist them in. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to be, since we got the Duralast full ceramic gold, these come with the new brake hardware kit. So we're going to be changing the brake hardware kit, even though these don't look that bad. We're going to also be taking loose the sliding pin, and we're going to really loop them up, and we're going to take my piston retractor, and we're going to see if this piston goes in relatively easy or not. So on these, all you do is just pop them out. Just like that. They pop right out. And what you want to do is you look and you see up underneath here, this right here, that clip right there goes in between here, and that's what holds it on like that. And you want to make sure these go down over these grooves right here. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to show it to you because you know, I don't have my GoPro on, so I'm doing it from my camera. So that is how we do that. But I'm going to take my wire brush and I'm going to just clean this up, and I'm going to clean up here. I'm going to put a little bit of brake lube here, and also on the new hardware, and then we'll put the brakes in. And I'm going to pull these out, lube that. When I push this in, I'm going to lube the outside of this. Anywhere that makes brake contact, that's where you want to put some on. Also, I'm going to take my wire brush. I'm just going to clean the dirt. Once I push that piston in, I'm going to clean the dirt out right around here. Dirt is the enemy of brakes. Dirt and grime and grease. So we got our little piston retractor tool. We always use the little one first to see how, and the little guy seems to be working fine. We just twist the piston all the way in, and I'm not worried about the brake fluid reservoir because that's a lot of fluid that's coming from the rear to go all the way up to the front, and I don't think it's gonna be any harm. But when we go to do the other one, we'll lift the hood up and just double check to make sure that everything's okay at the reservoir, because we don't want the reservoir backing up, because then it'll get air in the system and we'll have to end up bleeding brakes, and you really don't want to be bleeding brakes. So the piston's gone in wonderfully. I had my doubts because it was so far out that I couldn't get this one in on here. So what I had to do is get the big boy. Now we just loosen it and pull it out. The piston's back in the bore. We didn't rub anything, so I had to use the big C-clamp here. My smaller one's broken, so I had the bolt on the back of that there, and I put the brake pad in and squeezed it in enough so I can have room to put the brake pad in and use my little smaller one. So now I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to clean this dirt up right in here. So we took the sliding pin out one at a time, because sometimes on the bottom of that there is like a little black I don't know, retainer or something that keeps greasing or something. So when you go to put them back in, just twist them like this, and you'll hear it pop in when you push it, and it popped in. And just make sure, you know, they spring in and out. And that's all you do to change them. Pull this out, pull back on that. You can wipe the grease off if you want. There's no dirt on here, so we're gonna go ahead and put grease on and put that back in there. Okay, so I lubed up the brake hardware before I put it on. I lubed it up, and you always want to spin it to make sure you don't hear any metal. Okay, and that's because that ring down in there, you take a little flathead screwdriver like this, and there's a tab that you want to bend backwards, and that will catch that in there. Do the same thing up there. You've seen the old tab. This is the tab here, and you see the way it is, how it sticks like that. So it's going to be pushed in, and you can see it hanging out underneath there. So that'll be rubbing against the back side of the rotor. So you want to get in and push it down that way, and that'll stop that. Windy day. So now we get our Duralast rotors, and I gotta put some lube on the ear of each of these. I meant to say Duralast brake pads. And like I said, you put them in on the angle and then they slide right in. Now we get the one with the ear on it, and she's gonna go in on the back side. We put these back in the orientation that we got them, and this was facing downward. And she's on, and as you see, we already put lube right there on that part that rubs against the back of the brake. So we're gonna take and pull it down, make sure we get her twisted in the right direction, and back over the brakes. If need be, push in these pins to get them on. And what I like to do is I like to take and put Loctite on these threads to make sure that they don't back out. So we got one started. Now let's get the other. Put some blue Loctite on it. And we get it started down here. I gotta go pick up some stuff here. The wind is blowing my gloves around, the instructions around, which I don't use instructions no way, but it's very windy out here, and I don't want trash blowing all over the place here. My towels, shop towels are getting blown around. Let's put this inside the tire. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this back up, and we'll be done on this side. You know what, guys? I think I work too hard. When I work too hard, you know what that time is. Commercial. Mustang Fanatic Productions commercial. We'll be right back. Okay, so that wraps it up on how to do rear brakes. The pads on a '08 Hyundai Sonata. So the last thing we want to do is go inside the vehicle and pump the brakes so the fluid can return back back to the reservoir, but before I do that, let's open up the hood and just check out the reservoir. And here's a brake reservoir right here, and we have no problems with the fluid building up. Now, if I was doing the front brakes, I would definitely have taken that loose and probably siphoned a little fluid out of it, and you can always add fluid back. So now we pump the brakes, and there we are, they're tight. And we're gonna go for a little test drive. But ladies and gentlemen, that is how you change brakes on a '08 Honda Sonata 3.3 liter V6 engine. So thank you for watching. We ask you to like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. We got plenty more videos to come. God bless. Have a good day.